Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome, Moors, to Moors Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka and Dr. And tonight, we have a special broadcast. My special guest is Dr. Walter Williams and his lovely wife, Annetta. We also have Sister Emma McGowan out of California and others that will be on the broadcast with us tonight. The title of this broadcast is From Pharaoh to Negro. We're going to deal with that tonight. Who gave the descendants of the ancient Moors and Egyptians the label African Americans? What is that? Has this type of label caused a problem with the ancient Moors and descendants of the ancient Egyptians in America? Why did the descendants of the ancient Egyptians and descendants of the ancient Moorish Empire allow the labels Negro, colored, and black, etc., to be placed upon them? And last but not least, what is the solution to the problem in America today? These are just a few of the questions that we're going to be dealing with this evening, and it may be a good idea for you to have paper and pencil handy so you can take notes. My special guest, Dr. Williams, will be in shortly. I'm going to go to the commercials, and when we come back, we're ready to go. So y'all hold on a minute. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Tarhaka again. I would like to introduce you to the Great Debate. We now have copies of the Great Debate. Dr. Walter Williams debates Prince Ezio ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. Also, Reverend Henry Hardy of one of the most prominent churches in Chicago, Illinois. Chester Blair, a major attorney in Chicago. And Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. The whole thing is hosted by W.L. Lillard. Dr. Walter Williams debate these men on their belief versus what he knows for a fact and he can prove. Get your copy by going to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org, or you can go to newdataelimination.com. newdataelimination.com. Contact me for your copies. Okay? The Great Debate. You got any questions, just give me a shout. Peace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chantel. and the time for becoming a secured party and creditor is now. To do it right, go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka. Learn how to be a creditor. Learn how to live in the private. Find out what private banking is all about. Learn about being in your proper status in commerce. Learn what a national and diplomat is all about. www.newdebtelimination.org. For Tarhaka's free report, go to tarhakadebtelimination.org. Put in your email address, and he will rush your free report to your email box. Learn about what's going on in America. Learn about big tobacco and what's in it for you. Go to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. I'm Chantel. Thanks. Hi, Chantel again. If you have problems with mortgages or foreclosure, credit card debt, child support, student loan debt, etc., go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka. You don't have to be burdened with debt. Set yourself free today. www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka today. Peace.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Now, somebody's trying to call me. I'm on the air, so I'm going to have to bypass that. But anyway, what we want to think about, and what I want to do before we even get started here, let's deal with a backdrop for a minute before we get down into the mechanics of what it is that we're dealing with, how devastating it is being, and what we can do about it. And we could have done this a long time ago. And we're talking about some massive stuff that should have been done about it. And you had to deal with some folks. And your biggest foes are going to be people who look like you. You got folks in the field, and then you got those in the house. You understand what I'm talking about? Now, I want you to listen very, very carefully to what I'm going to read to you. Dr. Williams wrote in his book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, the following, and it's right here in the introduction. It states, as we approach the dawn of a new century, the Western communities continue to consolidate themselves politically, economically, militarily. Yet the power behind these societies go far beyond their military bases. The key to Western power can only be gauged by its ability to control people throughout the world. To that end, the Western world has incorporated a philosophy of psychology where myths, lies, and deception are the order of the day, and death and destruction are the Western ways of life. Historically, as you progress through time, you will eventually encounter a powerful triad of religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. All of these religions have led strong mass appeal and persuasive power, and they remain the most powerful tools in the Western world's arsenal of controlling forces. These religions serve as the ultimate sentry for Western world interest. They were developed and perpetuated to preserve past gains, enhance present gains, and ensure future gains. Contrary to popular belief, Christianity serves as the foundation of both Islam and Judaism. To understand the historical origin of Christianity is to understand the true nature and purpose of religion. To understand religion is to take it out of the romantic and mysterious and the mystical and expose it as having no historical realism or boundaries. The only boundaries these religions have are that of the writer's imagination. Man, that is awesome. That is awesome. Now, what I'm going to do now, before I go into anything else, I'm going to open up the phone lines and let my guest come in, because I have a question for him, and I see we have two callers with their hands raised, and one of them is our special guest, Dr. Walter Williams. I'm going to open up the other phone lines before we go any further. Area code 773. Dr. Williams, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Hold on one second. Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Thank you.
Area code 763. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what's your question or comment.
Oh, my name is Haza Killen. I'm calling from North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just here to listen to the show, and based on what Dr. Walter Williams is going to talk about, I'm going to have some questions.
All right. We'll just sit tight, and we're going to get in there. Okay. Just sit tight. All right. Now, Dr. Williams, before we go down into our subject matter today on from Pharaohs to Negroes, I've been re-going over the great debate that you did with the three gentlemen. And could you tonight, before we get started, could you shed a little light on that for the listening audience, because there's a few of us may not know the power, the powerful situation that occurred. So could you give us a little bit before we get started on the great debate?
Yes. What you're referring to is a debate that I've done with 5 men the year 1993. The host of that show, W.L. Lillard, set me up to be defeated. And what he did, he set 5 men against me. One, Prince Raphael ben Israel, a member of the Black Hebrew Israelite community in America. He's associated with the late Ben-Ami that took a group of Chicago followers into Dimona, Israel some years back, and set up camp there in the illegal state of Israel, claiming themselves to be descendants of Abraham. So Prince Raphael ben Israel was one of the debaters that came against me. And the second debater was a minister by the name of Reverend Henry Hardy. Reverend Henry Hardy had a big church in Chicago, and he was representing a Christianity, because I was saying at that time, and still saying, there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. At the same time of me researching the history and the historical origin of Christianity, I ran into the historical origin of Islam. The third individual that was put up to debate me was a man by the name of Munir Muhammad, a member of the Nation of Islam. And he was representing Islam. So that was my third debater. And then there was a lawyer that W.L. Loder got to go against me and to debate me, because at the time I was saying that Africans born in America were not citizens of the United States of America due to the Constitution drawn up in 1787. So he brought this lawyer on who, as you know, all lawyers, when they take their oath at the bar to become a lawyer, they have to take the oath to defend the United States Constitution. So he was the fourth debater. And the fifth debater was W.L. Lillard himself, the host of the show. He was set out to and determined to defeat me by any means necessary. So he had these four people that I mentioned, including himself, because you will hear him on the tape saying that that these men were his friends. And I had previously been on a show with him some months earlier, and he had a white guest on there, or a white co-host on there. And when he made a statement, I asked him, "What date are you talking about?" And this white host could not tell me the dates. He was fumbling, and he was on camera fumbling and bumbling and carrying on. So they were out, or he was out to get me, which is okay. But anyway, that is the great debate. And it was before a live audience. It was on public television in Chicago. And the audience, at different intervals as I spoke, started clapping for me. And they didn't like that. But anyway, you have a copy of the great debate. Is that correct, Brother Tarhaka?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Anyway, the great debate is out, and Brother Tarhaka can tell you more about it. And it's a great tape. It's a classical tape, and it's a classic tape, and it's a collector's item because it's been 27 years ago that the debate took place. So it is. I think that tape goes on for over 2 hours, but it's very, very informative, very interesting. And once you play that tape, you cannot walk away from that tape because that tape will mesmerize you with the information and the drama that tape is producing. So that is the great debate. Something about the great debate tape. So you can take it from there, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. For those of you who would like to witness this and see this same thing with your own eyes, because it is on DVD, and you can contact me, or you can send me fill out, go over there to Tarhaka Data Elimination, fill out the contact us form, and you can state what you want to state if you want to request this. Or either you can go over to newdataelimination.org. You can scroll down at the bottom. You'll see the great debate down there in the a small fee for it, and we could send you the download where you can download this thing and you put it on a look at it right there on your computer. It's private. He was saying it's a tape, but what he's meaning is actually video footage that you can see very, very clear and concise. There's no distortion and all of this stuff. But anyway, this is something you got to see. It is incredible. Dr. Williams, you did a wonderful job on that, and I'm gonna leave that right there. But what I want to do now, before we get down in from Pharaoh to Negro, there is an article that was written, and I want to bring up a small portion of that so the listening audience will have a little bit of background. I'm not going to do all of it now because I know you'll be able to fill any gaps on it. And you state the following information from this article that you wrote. From Pharaoh to Negro by Dr. Walter Williams. Each year, the month of February is set aside to highlight the people of African origin, their events, and the history that was made during their stay in this country called America. It began with Carter G. Woodson, the great educator and writer whom initiated Negro History Week. Later, it was expanded for a month and called Black History Month. The name Black History Month was used for many years until a gentleman by the name of Jesse Jackson suggested that we call ourselves African Americans. So today, the month of February is called African American History Month. Let's investigate and find out what we as a people are doing to ourselves when we accept and allow ourselves to be called by these meaningless names. Always remember, whatever name you call yourself, there is a history attached to it. Let us examine the name Negro. The name Negro was first given to us by the Portuguese and Spanish slave traders during our stay under their domination in the Americas, South America, Brazil, and Venezuela. I'm going to stop right there, Dr. Williams, and later on I'll be able to go down a little bit more if you want me to do so. But my question to you at this point is, explain to me, what do you mean by the title of this broadcast, From Pharaoh to Negro? I yield the floor.
Okay, I wrote that article in 1991 for a local community neighborhood newspaper. And that in that article, From Pharaoh to Negro, I was trying to explain to the reader how we, as an African people, how we, Africans born in the United States of America, are descendants of the greatest people that ever walked this earth, known in history as the ancient Egyptians. And I wanted to bring to their attention how we went from Pharaoh down and reduced down to a Negro. That is the title of that paper, From Pharaoh to Negro, how we went from Pharaoh down to a Negro, and that was done by the European community in America, and the European community that was in charge, such as the Greeks and the Romans, and later the American Europeans, how they reduced us down to from an ancient Egyptian to a Negro, how the Spanish speaking people using and asking our ancestors coming to Spain to bring civilization to them. Once we got into Spain, using the country called Morocco and the Strait of Gibraltar that extends out of Morocco to inner Spain, they called us, our ancestors, black or Moors. The word black and Negro is synonymous. So that's really how we got that name. So I was explaining in that paper that you began to read how we was reduced down from Pharaoh to a Negro, and how we went from the pyramids to the projects. So from Pharaoh to Negro, and from the pyramids to the projects, this is done on purpose to one group, one racial group, of people. And that one race of people, ancestors, are the ancient Egyptians. Like Pharaoh P. Ford said in his book, God Wills the Negro, that was published in 1939. He said that the ancient Egyptians vanished and the Negro appeared. You see, so again, I'll say, Pharaoh P. Ford, in his book, God Wills the Negro, printed in 1939, which is out of print today, stated that we, as an African people, went from ancient Egyptians who had vanished down, and the Negro appeared. How the ancient Egyptian vanished and the Negro appeared. So you have to take that into consideration and understand that. Now, also, it's very important to know this, that once we got into Spain, back and forth, from Spain back into North Africa, because we, as an African people, lived all along the North African countries, such as Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Egypt was the capital of the ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, which consists of Ethiopia as well as Uganda and the Sudan. So, with those 9 countries under the one umbrella of ancient Egypt or the ancient Egyptians, I want the listeners to know that we were not centralized in just one country, that that civilization was shared in those other 8 countries other than Egypt, Egypt being the 9th country. So, and then in 1051, when the Spanish asked our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, to come into Spain and bring civilization to pagan, heathen Spain, that was in 1051, they used Morocco, like I said before, because of that strait that's in Morocco. That strait is an extension of land that extends into the Mediterranean more so than the other 5 countries, such as Egypt don't have that extension. Libya doesn't have it. Tunisia doesn't have it. Algeria doesn't have it. Or Mauritania doesn't have it. But Morocco has it. And that from that strait of Gibraltar that extends into the Mediterranean, that land extension gave more land to enter Spain by way of land. And at the end of the Strait of Gibraltar, you have to travel by boat 8.9 miles by boat to reach the shores of Spain. And once they got to Spain, like I mentioned before, the Spanish began to call them black Moors. And black, like I said before, in Spanish means Negro. Negro and black is one and the same. So for 427 years of back and forth from the North African countries of ancient of North Africa, those countries I just mentioned, the Moors or the descendants of the ancient Egyptians was back and forth. Now, in that 427 years, during that time, in 1445, over on the outskirts of Rome, in the suburbs of Rome, near the catacombs, those same Moors that were in Spain were asked to come into what we know today as the Vatican to build the Vatican, because they knew how to build. They had the technology to know how the knowledge of building. The Europeans, they were in the beginning history of their European Renaissance era. So they didn't have that technology. So they had to call on the Moors to come into the Vatican in 1445 and build the Vatican as you see it over today. The Vatican as you see it over there today is nothing but a replica of the double-walled city of Constantinople. Constantinople is in northeast Africa, called the Middle East today. In Constantinople, which is called Istanbul, Turkey today, housed the first seat of Christianity there in the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church. And when that seat was transferred out of there, and after being over there in northeast Africa, for 902 years, that seat began to be transferred out of there into Europe because of the imminent threat by the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And the Ottoman Turks was threatening to enter the double-walled city of Constantinople, seize the city, and seize the church. So John VIII, in 1439, moved the seat of Christianity out of northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia. And that seat was moved into the outskirts of Rome, in the suburbs of Rome, by way of a land allotment given to the 12 men, they were called humanists, that received that seat and guided that seat and developed that seat to be what we know today as the Vatican. But they asked the Moors to come in to do that because the Moors and their ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, had built the world's first Christian church, which is the Church of Hagia Sophia, which is still over there today as a structure. But that goes into another history. And they, in 532, African architects and African builders were asked to build this church for Mary and Christ by Justinian and his wife Theodora. And this group of African architects and scholars, they designed that church, and you can see a picture of that church on the cover of my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. What you see on that cover is a picture of the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia. So now, the same descendants of ancient Egyptians are asked now to come into on the outskirts of Rome and build the second seat of Christianity, which in 1445 they broke ground and began to build St. Peter's Church as you see it over there today. Okay, so but now in 1473, over in the Vatican, the same Moors began to build the Sistine Chapel. See, and then 5 years later, 1478, came the Spanish Inquisition that was created by Ferdinand and Isabella. The sole purpose of
the Spanish Inquisition.
The Spanish Inquisition was to get rid of the Moors out of Spain and get rid of the Moors out of the Vatican. That was the sole purpose of that. They didn't want the world to know that the Spanish and the Vatican in Rome were developed and built the civilization that was put into Spain and the building of the Vatican that was put into Spain by the Moors. They didn't want the world to know that. So, as you know, one of the traits of the European, once he uses you and get what he wants from you, he now discards you. He throws you away and tries to erase any steps that you and where you have been. So no one can trace those steps back to him and his so-called history, that you developed him. They don't want the world to know that. So with the Spanish and Roman Inquisition, 1478, instigated by Ferdinand and Isabella with hiring a man by the name of Thomas de Tarhaka, who was the Inquisitor General hired by Ferdinand and Isabella to get rid of the Moors out of Spain, and the Roman Catholic Church had the same group headed by Thomas de Tarhaka to get rid of the Moors out of the Vatican. So it was a double whammy because the Roman Catholic Church had allied with the Roman Catholic Church, and they had allied with each other, the Spanish government. So you had two for one. So the Inquisition served two purposes, one for Spain and one for the Roman Catholic Church. Now, once over here in 1492, also Ferdinand and Isabella had hired a ship owner by the name of Christopher Columbus. He was his job was to take the Moors out of Spain, get rid of the Moors. And what he did with a boatload of Moors, they found their way over in this hemisphere of the Americas in 1492. So in 1492, you had a boatload of Moors over here, along with Christopher Columbus. And while over here, the Moors set up a civilization over in this hemisphere. And so for 127 years, from 1492 to 1619, which no one talks about that time era in history, that 127 years from 1492 to the beginning of the slave trade in 1619, the Moors began to build and set up civilization over in this hemisphere. Now they got to get rid of the Moors again. They got to erase these ancient Egyptian Africans who are nicknamed and called the Moors by the Spanish. Now, what they did was this. They created what is known as the slave trade of 1619. How did they get rid of the Moors? After the Moors had been over here for 127 years before 1619 and setting this civilization over here. How do you get rid of them? You get rid of them by putting other Africans that these savage Europeans took out of Africa as human beings and brought them over in this hemisphere to make and create these humans into slaves and make them part of the slave trade. How do you get rid of these Moors that indeed set up civilization over in this hemisphere? You put what they did, they took the enslaved African that was taken out of Africa, and these Moors who were skilled men out of from Spain, from North Africa, from the Vatican. All these men were skilled men. How do you get rid of them? How do you not let the world know that they existed. What you do is what they did, brother, was to change their name. They call these same skilled men that built this country up, setting up the third civilization. They put them and the other Africans, human beings that they've taken out of Africa, and put them under one umbrella. Remember this, they put both under one umbrella, and they call them Negroes. Now, once that happened, see, like I said before, Negro and black is synonymous, one and the same. Now, once that happened to these African people called Negroes, they set in place and created a new African people, that had no land identity with the name that they call themselves. Because every name that you call yourself, you're supposed to have land to identify that name that you're calling yourself. If you call yourself a Negro, well then, where's Negro land? I can't find it on the world map. If you call yourself black, I went to the world map, I couldn't find black land. So if you call yourself an African American, I couldn't find it on the world map of human geography. So now, what I did find with the name African American and Negro and black is that what you're telling the world when you use those names, that my history and my ancestors' history started with slavery in America, and that's not true. You got to go beyond that. What about that 127-year difference before the 1619 there had been a slavery? What about that? What our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, did in this country, in this hemisphere, brought civilization and built all through the Americas, including the United States of America. And so you have to really understand that, you see. And you got that government building in Washington, D.C., with that dome on there that was built in 1792 by the same Moors. And they built that government building that you see there with that dome on it. That's their trait, one of their traits. But the Europeans will tell you today, oh, that was built by slaves. Slaves cannot build nothing like that. Don't let nobody fool you. What they did was use those skilled African, ancient Egyptian descendants to build that government building with that dome on there. And instead of telling the world who they are, not were, but who they are, they say, oh, it was built by slaves. No. So you got to really know what happened in history in order for you to understand what happened to our ancestors after the Greeks came into Egypt. Very, very important. You hear me say that all the time. We have to learn and know the history of what happened to our African, ancient Egyptian ancestors after the Greeks came into Egypt. And that's the reason why I asked our listeners that we have listening to our program, Brother Tarhaka, to go and get my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, and read that introduction for once a day for 30 days, and you really get your mind acclimated into really understanding who you are and who your ancestors are and what they have produced and brought forth in this world to enhance the world of humanity, other humans, you see. So we need to know that. So now, once we were put into slavery over here, who put us into slavery? It was the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Roman Catholic Church, the capitalist Jewish community who own and the banks that just find over there in England on Lombard Street, the banking community over there, the British government, and those are the main people and the main entities that put us as an African people into slavery to erase from our minds who we are and who our ancestors are. And then once we got into the school system, they allowed us to go to school. They got us in there and miseducated us on purpose. They taught us away from who we are. They taught us away from our connections with ancient Egypt. They don't want you to know that. See? So they want you to be something of inferior. They want you to be inferior according to what they're teaching you. So you can be inferior. Like I mentioned before, you hear me always say that they gave me a book called Little Black Sambo when I went to school, grammar school. I was 8 years old in Chicago. They gave me a book called Little Black Sambo. For those who don't know about Little Black Sambo was the African boy who took the tiger by the tail and went around a tree, round and round and round a tree to both turn to butter. Now that's supposed to be my history, that the school system is teaching me who I am, but they gave that same book to the little white child in the school to make him feel superior over me, you see? And I became Little Black Sambo, you see? So they use all kinds of tricks and all kinds of ways to diminish us as a human being. They took our minds and they practiced genocide against our minds in the system that we live in over in this hemisphere. And they're still doing it at this very moment that I'm talking. So that is a little something that I wanted to say about from Pharaoh to Negro, the great debate, and about something about who we are as a people. And I'll turn it back over to you, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, Dr. Williams, you shed some tremendous light for us, and I have some more that is I feel is very, very vital for us to understand. And after I do this, those of you who have a question or comment, press 1 on your phone. The phone lines will be open. I'll open up the phone so you can get a chance to talk to Dr. Williams. If you got any questions, feel free to ask your questions. But this is the part that I want to bring to the table, Dr. Williams. You state here in the, let's see now, this is the 3rd paragraph from Pharaoh to Negro. The name Negro was first applied to the Coptic Egyptian Moors who were taken out of Spain by Christopher Columbus on orders of Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492. For religious and racial reasons, the Coptic Egyptian Moors at that time were the highest civilized people on earth. Coptics are the direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians, and with them were the last direct seeds of that great civilization. Prior to the Coptic Egyptian Moors being dumped into the Americas, their ancestors interacted with the indigenous peoples for many years. This is evidenced by the pyramids and other artifacts found in South and North America. This name Negro was applied to the Coptic Egyptian Moors to finish the destruction of the connection with the people and the institutions developed by their ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. The first damaging blow had been struck many years earlier by Alexander the Greek, who invaded Egypt in 332 BCE. In 1619 came the first enslaved Africans to what is now the United States of America. These Africans, along with their ancient Egyptians, who were living among indigenous peoples at that time here in the Americas, are grouped under one umbrella by the uncivilized savage European enslavers as part of the plan, demoralized and degraded the captured Africans, the Europeans called the Africans, including the free ancient Egyptians, by the most meaningless name ever applied to a group of people on earth, and that is Negro. I wanted to add that, and I got one more small piece here. Say the name Negro is translated to mean black, and today it is suggested to mean African American. If you research the history and attach to the names Negro, Black, African Americans, you will find a non-existent, non-ethnic race of people due to the fact that one cannot go to the world map and pick out geographically land area called Negro land, Black land, African American land. Further, this name Negro, in parentheses Black, is defined in the history books written by Europeans to mean a hewer of wood and a drawer of water, a perpetual servant, therefore being cut off from the knowledge of which our ancient ancestors are, we find ourselves in the degraded dilemma. Okay, and I'll stop there before later on if you want me to go further. But at this time, those of you who have a question or comment for our guests, the number to dial into the broadcast is 319-527-6084. That's 319-527-6084. Press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication here on the switchboard that you have something to say. Whoever caller with his hand raised at area code 225, I'm going to open up the line and so he can tell us who he is, where he called from, and what's the question, comment. 225, you're on the air.
Before you get your caller on there, can I say something, Brother Tarhaka?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
I am expecting two guests to come on the show. One, Emma McGowan from San Francisco, and who have been to Egypt, had experience in Egypt, and she's going to explain to her experience and her friend Pearl Howell. I'm looking for both of those ladies to come on to talk about the experience that they experienced while in Egypt. Pearl went to Egypt. Emma went to Egypt. So I just want to say those are my two guests that I'm looking for to come on this broadcast. And now you can bring in the person that wants to ask questions.
Okay, I'm going back to area code 225. 225, you're on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from.
Hello, can you hear me?
Area code. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from.
This is Brother Will. I'm from Baton Rouge.
Okay, Will. Welcome. You have a question for our guest, Dr. Walter Williams?
Yes, and I emailed Dr. Williams the other day, so I'm waiting for him to get back to me. But on the subject of the Moors, besides, we know that we are descendants of the Moors. Are there any groups, Dr. Williams, that you know of that actively claim the heritage of the Moors living today in the Americas?
No, because, see, the word Moor is a nickname given to the ancient Egyptians and their descendants by the Spanish after they used a country called Morocco that borders the North Africa, the Mediterranean, and by that strait or that land extension that is known as the Strait of Gibraltar extending out of Morocco, which gives an individual who wants to go to Spain, they use Morocco to do that, and that strait to give them more land extension, and then from 8.9 miles they had to travel by boat to enter the shores of Spain and the country of Spain. So once that happened, the Spanish began to call those African descendants of ancient Egyptians by a nickname known today as the Moors. It's only a nickname given to the ancient Egyptian, our ancient Egyptian ancestors by the Spanish-speaking people of Spain during that time. So, my answer to you is there's no other race of people other than that. That's only a nickname, Moor.
Okay. Thank you so much, and I am enjoying it, and I'll look to be on next Sunday.
Oh, well, okay. We're going. You mean in November, the last Sunday of November?
Last Sunday in November, yeah. This is Brother Will
now,
Johnson.
This Will Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, Brother Will, glad that you came on. Good to hear your voice. Now, you said something about, did you say something about Piso?
No, I did, but you answered that for me.
Yeah, I thought I answered that for you. But anyway, thanks so much for your call, my brother. Mayat Hotel.
Absolutely. Mayat Hotel.
All right. I'm going down the line back down to area code 763 and open up the phone line. Area code 763, you're on the air.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Come on in.
Yeah. So this is Brother Killen. I am a student of Dr. Walter Williams, and I just have a question because I just listened to the professor, my mentor, talking about the Moors coming over to the United States in 1492 under the auspices of Christopher Columbus. So my son was given an homework assigned to write about the founding father of the United States. And the list names and the images are all white European. And there's no Africans or Asian Egyptians, descendants of Asian Egyptians. So I just want to get some notes from Dr. Walter Williams if there's anywhere I can get some information to show proof of those Africans or Asian descendants who helped establish the government of the United States. That's one question. And another question would be this. I think this will go to Dr. Brother Tarhaka. Is there a way that I can get a copy of Professor Williams' article from Pharaoh to Negro? Because the article that you read is very profound. So that way I can have something like that in my library and pass down to my children and future generation.
Okay, you can simply go to Google and just type in Dr. Walter Williams on From Pharaoh to Negro. And you will see the article right there. And you can read the article. You can copy and paste it on Microsoft Word. You can transfer it into a PDF file if you want to. But it's right there on Google under Dr. Walter Williams on From Pharaoh to Negro. It's right there on Google.
Okay, thanks so much.
And what was that question you asked me, Brother Killen?
Yeah, so the question was about founding father of the United States. Yes, I know I heard about there was other leaders that have founded the government of the United States, but all we read in history books are just white Europeans. Talk about John Adams, George Washington, Hamilton, and so forth. They are thinking about 7 founding fathers. People were here before the first group of Africans, first enslaved Africans, came to the United States in 1619. What are those people names? Some of those leaders that helped found the government. How do we find information on them that we can be able to teach our children? Because they are not learning anything like that in school.
Well, like I always say, one has to use the discipline of history in order to understand human history, what went on in human history, and the events that was caused by human beings. to create this human history. Now, you have to know this, that Africans were living over in this hemisphere before Christopher Columbus ever came over here in what we know today as the Americas. They was living among the indigenous Indians. That is another history within itself. So you have to do your own research and find out about these Africans living in and among the indigenous Native American Indians. Now, some years back, about 7 or 8 years ago, in Chicago, in the Spanish-speaking neighborhood of Chicago, at a museum over there, they had an exhibit, an African presence in Mexico. The name of that exhibit was The African Presence in Mexico. And I went over there, and it was a wonderful exhibit that gave you information about the Africans living among the American Native Indians of this country. So you have to do your own research and find out about what that history was all about, you see. So they were over here, Africans were over here in this hemisphere before the Africans that came over here on the boat with Christopher Columbus, and those Africans that came over here on the boat with Christopher Columbus were known as the Moors, like I mentioned before. So there's that type. Those are two histories right there that one has to really investigate and find out. So that's your job. I'll give you that assignment to find out exactly what took place in both histories. And when you do that, you get a better understanding of what went on and a bigger picture of what went on in world history during that time, before Christopher Columbus, 1492, which is the Africans over in this hemisphere living among the indigenous Native American Indians and the Africans that were brought over here on the boat with Christopher Columbus. And those Africans that was brought over here on the boat with Christopher Columbus are known as the Moors. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that, Brother Killen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walter Williams.
You're welcome. Leon Hotep, my brother.
Yeah, Hotep.
All right, brother. We're going down to the next caller. Our next caller's area code is 678. Area code 678. You're on the air.
Yes,
Tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. He's loud and clear. Who are you?
All right, this is Sadiq from Atlanta.
Okay, Sadiq, welcome.
Thank you. I was in response to what Professor Williams just speaking on. What relation is that to the Olmecs that was reported to be here before Christopher Columbus' time?
The Olmecs was part of that Spanish Inquisition that got rid of the Moors out of Spain by Ferdinand and Isabella. The Inquisition started in 1478. So you had the Moors running into different areas of the world, and one segment of the Moors ran into Mali. So from Mali, they came over into Easter Island, where those Olmec heads are. And that's how those Olmec heads got there, by way of the Moors being expelled out of Spain and the Vatican by Ferdinand and Isabella and the Roman Catholic Church. And that segment of them, or a group of them, came into Mali. And from Mali, they came into Easter Island and created those Olmec heads. And that's what you see over there. So that would be my answer to you, Brother Sadiq.
Okay, thank you. One last question, real quick. So, in reference to the Olmecs, the scholar Ivan Van Sertima, they came before Columbus. Would you say that's a good read as far as historical information for ancient Egyptian descendants?
Well, I would say it is a beginning good read for an individual who's starting out to study their ancestors. I would say it's a good read for that, you know. So that would be my answer to you. Yes, it would be a good read for you, anybody to start out, but you need to read what Ivan Van Sertima said in the book and then go a little further and cross-referencing what he said in the book by doing your own research on it. See, it's nothing like doing your own research. Once you do your own research, then you have something to stand on. You have a foundation to stand on. Otherwise, you won't go by what I said, what he said, or what she said, or what they said. Then you'll know for yourself because you have studied and cross-referenced what you have studied. And once you find out from your cross-referencing that what you have studied to be true, then you can go forward and say, hey, this is it. I got it. So that's what be my suggestion to you. So, yes, you can start off with Ivan Van Sertima that came before Columbus, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me add a little bit in there because I have the book. I read it, and the giant Olmec heads down here in South America, off the west coast of South America. He made a very interesting comment, and he said that the helmets on the heads of these statues are Egyptian headdress. And when he said that, then I really began to do some digging outside of they came before Columbus, and to verify that information. And then I ran into Brother Horace Butler's work, When Rocks Cry Out, and he began to go into great detail about the Egyptians in the Americas, in the land, because what has transpired, there's been a massive cover-up. There have been artifacts dumped into the ocean. There have been the burning of books, everything to maintain the stranglehold and the disconnection of us from our culture and history and our land, and to stay locked into Negro, colored, black, African American, so on and so forth, to make us a permanent underclass to serve everybody that don't look like us on this earth. So once again, brother, if you do what Dr. Walter Williams has stated about doing your own research, you'll uncover a whole lot of information, and it's a good idea anytime you are reading or doing any research. If you don't have a paper and pencil to take notes, make sure you got a highlighter, marker, so you can highlight what you're reading. And come back with your references. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, my brother. Peace.
Thank you, Brother Sadiq. May I hold up to you, my brother?
May I hold up to you, too?
All right. Peace. All right. Dr. Williams, before we go further, we're going to take a little quick break. And when I come back, I want to go back to the historical origins of Christianity, and also back to from Pharaoh to Negro in the article. Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the number to dial into the broadcast is 319-527-6084. We'll be right back. Y'all hold on a moment.
Tarhaka here. We have our secure party and creditor package. Go to www.newdebtelimination.com. That's newdebtelimination.com. Get yourself free. Learn how to be a secured party. Learn how to be a creditor. Learn how to establish your trust. NewDebtElimination.com. Hi, I'm Tarhaka. You know it takes more than a UCC-1 filing to become a secured party and creditor. Your trust is essential. Understanding public and private and your proper status is also a part of being a secured party and creditor and not a debtor. To do the thing right, go to www.newdebtelimination.com. That's newdebtelimination.com. Learn what private banking is all about. Learn what the lawyers and judges know. NewDebtElimination.com. Contact me, Tarhaka Amana El Bay, and when you do, I'll answer the phone. We're available from 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time up until 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. NewDebtElimination.com.
Hi, Chantel again. If you have problems with mortgages or foreclosure, credit card debt, child support, student loan debt, etc., go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka. You don't have to be burdened with debt. Set yourself free today. www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka today. Peace.
Okay. Now, Dr. Williams, in further reference to your book, The Historical Origins of Christianity, you state the following. We're still in the introduction. Whether you set these religions in a present or historical setting, where their true attributes can be extracted and displayed, you will find these attributes to be cold, calculated, deceptive, and devious lies. Western religion is the ultimate deceptive psychological ploy, primarily because religion professes to encompass the Word of God. Therefore, to accept another religion over a Western religion is to be ridiculed and reduced to an uncivilized savage. To deny the Western religions altogether is to damn your soul to eternal suffering. That is amazing to me, man. That is amazing. Let me go back over here, and when we come back, then we can deal with a little bit more of this stuff. Whenever you let others define who you are, your perception of yourself is based on the views of someone else. It does not matter whether that view is correct or perverted. You are no longer in control of your own identity. Today, we are still allowing others to define who we are as a people. The blame can be placed on the institution of racism in America, the organized school system, and our so-called leaders, social, religious, and political, who have allowed us to continue in this debased ignorance to this very day. The name Negro, black, leaves us without a common ethnicity. History of traditions, customs, languages, and ancestral consciousness are one geographical identity. Moreover, there is no common ancient history or ancient tradition from which to connect our creations, inventions, or spiritual thoughts. If we continue to call ourselves Negro, Black, or African American, the name Negro, Black, and African American are used to cover up the facts of our greatness as a people. Our history began thousands of years before slavery. Our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Moors, gave the world civilization. It behooves us to begin this very day to transcend for all time the memory of our existence as descendants of slaves in this country, and reach for the hidden doors of our minds that will reintroduce us through celebration to our great and grand heritage as descendants of the ancient Egyptians. The way of life established by the ancient Egyptians was based on the cosmic order and balance of Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian goddess. Ma'at represents truth, justice, peace, wisdom, and love. The rich culture of the first unified democracy of the world that were practiced in ancient Egypt were maintained for over 9,000 years, using Ma'at as their theme and underlying principle. This principle provided fairness, harmony, and security to all the citizens of ancient Egypt. Now I'm going to stop there because what we have today is chaos, corruption, and I don't want to use the rest of the word. But Dr. Williams, before we get back in, I have another caller with the hand raised at area code 415. Area code 415. You're on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what's your question and comment for our guest. 415. Come on in.
My name is Emma McGowan, and I'm calling to listen.
Welcome, sister. Welcome. Now, we've been rolling here for a minute. I know you've been listening all the time. But what's your input on this stuff?
Well, I disagree with what you're saying.
You agree with what I'm saying? I'm so pleased with that. Ooh. You know what's amazing, sister? I never have any of the college professors at Rutgers and Yale and Harvard and all these places. They don't never call in. I be hoping and waiting. I got a stack of facts right over here to the right waiting on them. But they don't never call in. I'm waiting. All they had to do is just press one on the phone. I'll let them have it. I'll let them in, and they can come on in and put down the information, which proves that Dr. Williams are wrong. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Maybe it's easier just to go along with the get along instead of really. We'd have to change. We'd have to change a few things if we have to admit who we really are and our ancestors are. Otherwise, it's easier to let somebody else kind of just tell you who you are.
Well, I tell you what, it's not an easy task. I've already changed, but I personally feel like my greatest foes are the people in my own family. I got a few friends. They went so far as to acknowledge my name, and they really try to call me by my name. Sometimes they mess up, but they come back. But my family.
What was the name on that package?
Huh?
Well, hold on a second.
Okay. Dr. Williams.
Oh, okay. That's supposed to get on today.
Okay, Sister McGowan is in here.
Yes.
Yes, I hear her. She's my guest.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, she is. And I'm waiting on the other sister.
Did Pharaoh Pearl, are you there? Pearl, did she call in?
I don't know. She hasn't pressed one, Pearl.
I have no idea. She'll have to, if she's dialed into the calling number, she'll have to press 1 on the phone. That'll give me an indication that she's here, and I can open up the phone line. So far,
okay.
I've already opened up the phone lines for all the guests. Do you know our area code?
It's 415.
415? Okay, well, you're the only 415 I got on the line. Nobody else from a 415 has called in and pressed 1 on the phone yet.
Okay.
So, Sister McGowan, what was your experience like in Egypt?
Oh, it was all overwhelming. Truly overwhelming. At first, it's like, it's like not being there, but being there.
I mean, in other words, you can't compare it to nothing else.
Well, yeah, in a way, but, it was kind of, it's like you knew a little bit about it, but you didn't know a whole lot about it, and 3 weeks there was like amazing experience. I mean, it just really was. And you know, here you are, you know, just seeing the stuff, and then being with a group of people that it was an amazing trip. It really was. It was an amazing trip in the sense that you was with a group of people just like you, and you can get along with everybody, and everybody it was just a spiritual experience as well as, you know, just seeing things and historical experience at the same time.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, if y'all was there for 2 weeks, did you?
No, 3 weeks. You were there 3 weeks.
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
How did the people who are actually, the people that are there that are actually calling themselves Egyptians, how did they react? Huh?
They really, I can only speak for me, but I think everybody else spoke to. We really didn't have a bad experience with them. It was kind of fun. You know,
okay.
To me, it was like, yeah, I had fun going to the marketplace. I mean, if you went later in the day, it was kind of sad because a lot of the, people that had disabilities and were big and stuff like that there. But, it still didn't dampen your spirits because that's, that could be any place.
Okay. And were y'all embraced by the people that are actually living there on the land now, calling themselves Egyptians? Did they embrace y'all, or how did they treat you?
Nubians.
Well, what did you say, Walter?
They were the Nubians that he's talking about. Who are
the Nubians themselves. He said the ones that call themselves Egyptians now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood your question.
No. That's what he said. So I assume he's talking about the, I don't know what they call themselves, Egyptians or Arabs or whatever. But anyway, I mean, it wasn't bad. Because they still in my like in the hotels and stuff. People seem to be okay to me. I mean, they seem fine as I can remember.
Okay.
Because one thing you got to know, we kind of help generate their money. So how bad are they gonna treat you?
Well, yeah, you got a point there.
You can read the tourists.
What about any air racism in the area? Because see over here, we got it going on. Really,
well, if they maybe we didn't stay long enough, I don't know. But anyway, it didn't seem as though it really that came up in a sense. That was it's like our tour guide. She was kind of in a lot of ways misinformed, but that's okay. We straightened her out. But anyway.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, well, tell us what happened.
She
was spinning a yarn.
You know what? I can't remember. She wasn't coming on as racism or anything. It's just like sometimes people think they know certain things, and even though they in Egypt, we knew certain things that she didn't know. But I can't remember exactly what it was.
What year was that you went there, Emma?
You know what? I don't. It was in the '90s, mid '90s, I think.
I think it was in 1992.
It was a little bit. I think it was later than '92. Is that what Arnetta said?
Yeah, it was a year before I met Arnetta. So I met Arnetta in '92. So no, it had to have been '91 then. '92.
You know what? I'm really sure.
1992.
But anyway, now when we was in Aswan, it was a Nubian. It was a kind of a different story.
Okay. And tell us about that. Emma?
Emma?
Oh no, I think we've lost a call. Maybe her phone has dropped. But Dr. Williams, now when you went there.
Hello?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, she's still here. She's still here.
Yeah, I'm here. Anyway, I was calling Pearl too to make sure she got on. But anyway, yeah. So, but when we went down, when we were in Aswan with they call themselves Nubians or whatever they call themselves, but they were seen to be more Egyptians. They were darker skinned and stuff like that. But anyway, a lot of them were saying that they were really friendly. The way I saw it, you go out on the boats with them, you be in different places with them, and they were really friendly toward us. And like I say again, how many people are gonna be rude to you because you're the tourist? I think wherever you go, it's like, how do you react? That has a lot to do with it.
Right.
And our action towards them was really good. So.
I had an experience somewhat like that because I remember I went downtown one day and we got this little train, to be up in the air on the little rails. And before I got on the train, I walked through the park, and I was dressed nice and stuff. But there was a group of Chinese people, and I know the difference. I know the difference between Chinese and Japanese when I see them. I can look at them, I can tell the difference, but I know them. And they was looking like, oh man, he's one of them. And they was looking. They had their cameras and stuff, and I was looking over there. They were scared to take a picture or something. They acted like they want to take a picture, but it was amazing the way that they were just staring. And I was like, okay, why are you staring? Yeah, but I understand what you are saying. People from other cultures and stuff, and you come in to their land because they have been given a whole lot of information about you, and a lot of information that's simply not true about you. And you supposed to be this, and they've told them you down here on the ground and all this. Then when they see you, how do you explain this individual here? Where you came from? And all of this stuff. So it's I don't know if Pearl coming. Pearl, I called her so she could come in because she went on a lot of trips too. She went with the Dr. Ben trip, who was famous for taking a lot of people to Egypt. She was in there with John Clark and all those people, so that's why I really wanted her to call in to tell her experience too. Okay, well, did you tell her to press 1 on the phone? So I would know. Okay. Well, that's all you got to do is call in the number and press 1 on the phone. It'll pop up over here, and we'll let her in.
Okay. Yeah, but in all, like I said, the trip in Egypt, I would rate it as, if I had to go, it would be a 5-star, really.
Really? Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. And what do you think about the monuments and stuff that you see? Because we're talking about a civilization dating back thousands upon thousands and thousands of years. And so it is amazing the contrast of what we're looking at today and the buildings that we see today. They build a building today, and the thing falling apart in 10 years, and they're ready to vacate the building and tear it down and make another one. 10 or 12 years, but these are artifacts and buildings and stuff that has been in there for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, here she is. I see her. She done came in. Hold on a minute. I'm going to open up her line. Area code 415. You on the air. Tell us who you are.
My name is Pearl Howell.
Okay, welcome. Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
The whole gang is here.
Okay, welcome everybody and everybody that's on this call. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, now it's your time to tell us about your experiences in Egypt when you were there.
Okay, this is Pharaoh Howell. I was in Egypt about, oh my God, I laid it down. About 25 years ago, I went on a tour with Dr. Ben, Professor Simmons. It was a great tour. Everybody was there. Dr. Ben was leading the tour, Naeem Akbar, Dr. John Hendrik Clark. It was a wonderful experience. I did it, I guess it was my 40th birthday. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to do this. I'm just going to go do it. I had actually met Dr. Ben years before when I lived in Indiana. He'd come there, and he was doing some teaching on Black Men of the Nile. So I'd taken a class, and I used to do a television show there years ago with Sister Mary Evans. And we had him on our show, and you know, I was just fascinated by all of what I was learning. So when the opportunity came, I went on this tour. It was a trip of a lifetime. It was magnificent. It was overwhelming in some ways. It was it was a great experience to be in the lecture rooms in the hotel at night. We were really it was part of the ASCAC conference. Remember the ASCAC? The Association for the Study of Classical Black History and Culture. Dr. Wade Nobles was on the trip, and he's a personal friend. And so I knew about that organization as well. The conference was held in Aswan. We of course went to Cairo, and then we went to all the places people go to, Luxor, to Aswan, all around, and then to the conference. And so it was just fascinating to be in the hotels in the evenings, and all these scholars, these brothers who could read the Meta Neter, who just the Egyptologists who knew so much, to be there, and then with a big group of people, and then we would get up early the next morning because we're trying to get out there before the sun came up in the desert to visit the tombs and the all the things, all the wonderful things to see. And I think my first reaction was, oh my God, it's so much. And then I realized it's so much because it's so old. It's been so long. It's a tremendous history, and made kind of put things in perspective. Where we are here, this is a short time, relatively speaking, compared to ancient history and culture, So that was all just very fascinating. We'd go out and we'd see things, and then we could come back and discuss them, and we could talk to each other. I'll tell you something interesting that happened at the conference.
Okay.
Malana Karenga was also on the trip.
Malana Karenga. Okay.
Yes. His wife, and he and Dr. Ben got in a little bit of a debate, and we were all there, so it was interesting. I think it was, it's good for us to talk to each other a lot, and we don't all have to be saying exactly the same thing at the same time, but we're family, so we can come to understanding. We can talk. So they got in a little bit of debate, and Karenga was saying, this is talking about culture and so forth, and how this is our history and culture. And Dr. Ben said, yes, of course it is. That's why we're here. He's an Egyptologist. He knows that. But they also came out that we're, we're looking at ancient, long time ago, and what does that portend for now, for today? And that the Egypt we're in right now is not that ancient Egypt. And so we had an opportunity then to talk about how we got from way back there to way up here again, in that African context. So that was a good conversation. I have beautiful pictures of myself in the pyramid with Dr. John Hendrik Clark, one of our foremost historians. I'm just feeling so fortunate to have been there with all these people,
Okay.
You
woo. I really wish I could have been there. I don't think I was well, yeah, I was born, but I was a little too young to be at that end. But boy,
yeah,
that's amazing.
So. It was amazing.
How did the general population, what was your opinion on the general population there? What do you think about that?
You talking about the people who live there?
Right. How were they reacting?
Well, because Dr. Ben was leading the group primarily, he took us to places. We actually went to a village, and they knew him, of course, and they had signs up that said, "Welcome, cousins. Welcome, cousins." So they welcomed us into these Nubian villages. Now, these were the Nubian people, not so much the Egyptians, and the people would tell us, "You African American, I'm a Nubian Egyptian." They would tell us, and they would tell us about their journey as Nubians. And I was pleased to learn they spoke their own language. They spoke Nubian. They told us things about their culture and how they lived. And we actually had an opportunity to go to a wedding that was when we were in Aswan. That's mostly where we were in contact with the Nubian people around that area. So we got in one of these feluccas, the little sailboats that go up the Nile. And we went up a little ways, and we got off the boat at a village. And one part of it, they were having it was all women, and they were having the party before the wedding. So they were almost all women, and we couldn't really speak the language, but we would look at each other, and people would touch, kind of hold your hand and offer you tea and things like that. And so there was a good feeling among us and the Nubians. And then because we were tourists, because we were visitors, we could also go to the men's party. So the women and the men went to all the parties. Usually the women would have their party, the men had their party, but we were tourists, so we got back on the boat and we went to the men's party down the road a piece. And they were having they had a music, they had a band, and they had all that. So the women kind of sat to the back, and we, you follow suit. When you're home, you're in somebody else's home, you respect that. So we, sat toward the back, and the men were playing their music and dancing, and it was really beautiful. And one of the things that I observed about the village, because I'm originally from Mississippi, out in the country, in the rural area. So I noticed that the people in the villages, it seemed, you could almost close your eyes and see yourself in Mississippi. The ground was swept clean. That's how my grandmother used to sweep the dirt and stuff.
Okay, so you were home.
I remember them sweeping that ground too. You're right, absolutely.
They swept that ground. That ground was clean, and so we had to go to this little village with one way to go to the restroom. And it was, of course, a little outdoor toilet. I know about our houses, but, it was a little different. Had the hole in the ground kind of thing. But but everything was swept clean. Everything was very neat and orderly. The animals were, back on the other side. And it felt like black folks. You know what I'm saying? It felt like my people. Felt like I was at home. Didn't talk to anybody, but we smiled a lot. And then we, the next day they had the wedding back in Aswan. That probably was Aswan too, but it was more rural because we had to get on the boat to go there. And then Aswan is, of course, more of a city. And then they had this at this center. They had this wedding, so we got to go over to the wedding. And the wedding was beautiful. The people mostly spoke Arabic, but they said they also spoke Nubian. And the family that got married, oh my gosh, they look every kind of way. Some were brown, some was jet black, some were looked kind of Arabic. They were all kind of mixed, all in the same family, you know. So it was really, really an interesting experience to see that and to kind of be a part of that.
So what about your hotel accommodations? When you what was it like? Did you feel like it was different from being in a hotel inside the United States? What was that experience like? What did you see that you thought might have been different?
Well, when we went into Cairo first, you know, we landed in Cairo. Of course, that's a big, huge city, and we spent like a day at the museum in Cairo. And the hotels there didn't look that different from American hotels to me in Cairo. It's a huge city.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
Pardon me?
They didn't look any different, right? Exactly, just like being in an American hotel.
Exactly.
Okay.
They look the same to me. And like any hotel, you know, they cater to all kinds of people came there. Cairo's a huge city. But when we got to Aswan, the hotels were the same. We stayed in a kind of an old hotel on the Nile. Had a nice patio and palm trees and like that. And it was very pleasant. It was fascinating to me to look out the window of the hotel, and you could see the Nile River there, and you could see across in a way, and it kind of looked like the pictures that I've seen in Bible pictures, you know, with the looking across the Nile and so forth. So all of that was real exciting. But the hotels were, you know, pretty much like any hotel we would see. This happened to be an old hotel that had a lot of the I was going to say what kind of architecture, almost like what do you call it? This, you know, the Spanish architecture, but it's the ones that the black Spaniards did, the ones that went to Spain, the Moors.
The Moors.
Like a Moor, yeah, like a Moorish architecture, had a lot of tile and things like that in it. This one did.
What about libraries? Did you see any libraries in there?
Well, we didn't, because we were going to the conference too. So we only spent a couple of days in Cairo. We went out to the museums. We saw the pyramids. We went to the day at the, you know, you can spend forever in the museum in Cairo. So we spent a lot of time there, and then we went out to see the pyramids, and we rode on the camels at night, and you know, that kind of thing. And then we went on to Aswan. We left Aswan with a Luxor. We did that on a boat, a big, not a little felucca, but a bigger boat. You know, so we got to see lots of what do you call it? Tombs and and to climb down into them, and you know, go inside and up and down or all around, you know, all different parts of it. You know.
Well, now when you all was going down the Nile, did any of the tour guides point out to you the crocodiles that were in there?
No.
No. No, they didn't. They did not. We had. I think we had special tour guides though.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: did you know they were in there with you?
No. I did not know. I'm not going to say that because I didn't. We saw a bunch of zebras.
Go back and do some more research on your ancient history.
Yeah, it might be just a bunch of them in there, but I didn't see them. I saw a bunch of turds in there.
Yeah, I didn't see any crocodiles. I'm sure they were there. I have seen crocodiles in Ghana. They have a lake Crocodile Lake they take you to, and you can go there and take a picture with a crocodile and touch them.
Where is this at, girl?
This is Ghana.
So she can make sure she ain't going.
Ghana. Oh, I didn't even know about it in Ghana. I didn't know about them in Ghana, but I didn't want to go see them.
I didn't want to go see them. But they were like pets. I'm so serious. So the people would call them over. They'd whistle or something. The crocodile would crawl up out of the water and.
Well, they was okay probably because they was feeding them.
Yeah. But I didn't see any crocodiles in Egypt.
I didn't either.
I didn't see any. We had some good food in the hotel. We had some black-eyed peas and greens.
Really?
We have no,
what kind of greens?
We sure did. We have
what kind? Collards, mustard, turnips. Which one?
It was probably some combination. It was greens, and it was cooked like our greens are cooked. But no, of course, they don't put any pork. There was no pork in the whole country because it's a Muslim country. But they had black-eyed peas and greens. The black-eyed peas were cooked with a kind of a curry, a little bit of yellow turmeric or something like that.
Yeah. Because they use a lot of spices and stuff.
A lot of spices. Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the hotels do try to cater to the Americans. Sometimes, especially in the big cities like Cairo, they would try to give people bacon and eggs and stuff, but it wouldn't be pork, of course. It'd be some kind of bacon. I didn't eat it, but, I didn't eat it.
So did you guys actually stay on the ship? Did you stay on that boat? Because actually, I think we stayed on the boat because we came up from Aswan up to Cairo on that ship.
Oh no, ours wasn't a ship. Ours was a big.
Well, it wasn't a big ship, but it was a big boat where you ate on it. They served the dinner on it and everything else.
No, we
in
didn't
fact,
do that.
We stayed on it like a hotel coming back up to Cairo.
Oh
and we
no!
would get
we didn't come all the way to Cairo on it. We just went from Aswan to Luxor.
Oh, maybe that's what we did, but I'm not sure. I gotta, it gets vague after a while. But I remember staying on that ship a while because what we would do was stop in some of the villages on the way there. Because, they would pick you up in an air-conditioned bus and you would go around to the museum. But once you got in the cave, it really wasn't that hot. It was amazing how they had structured where the sun didn't shine. You could see because it didn't have lights and stuff in it. But remember, but you got inside. It was cool inside where it might have been 130 degrees outside.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I just remember we weren't on it that long, and I don't remember eating. We ate after we got to where we were going. I don't think we were on it that long.
They had 3 meals on that ship. It was so much food. And stuff. After a while, I started just eating one time because you'd have been big as a house by the time you ate all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually had a menu on it. And the other thing I was going to say, did you go to the cave where you could see you knew right away it was part of the religion stuff? I said, oh, that's where they got the Son, Power, and the Holy Ghost from. I don't remember what cave it was, but do you remember that cave?
Oh, well, we went to a lot of temples, like the temple at Karnak. We went to places where the temple of Karnak and where people, the places where they said Jesus had come to study. We actually some people got married there on our trip, and then some people had brought ashes from their departed family and sprinkled them in the Nile. So they had a little ceremony around that. Well, Emma, what year were you there?
Now, Walter said it was 92 because I forgot. He said it was a year after he met my sister, which is his wife for those many years. But anyway, I thought it was I think it was like 93. I'm not sure. 93, 92, something.
It wasn't 93. It was 92. The same year I met your sister Arnetta. Back to me now. When I met her, you all had been there. That 2 months before I met her. And that was in 92. And my group was scheduled to go in August of 92. '92.
Oh,
and you all had been there, I think, like in June, July, or May, or something like that, '92. So it was the same year that I met Arnetta, your sister, and my group and we went the same year in August. So it was '92.
Okay. So mine would have been before that, was 80-something, because it was 30-some years ago now that I'm adding up my age.
Okay. Well, then you met Dr. Ben, like you said, he was on his trip. Is that correct, Pearl?
Right. I was on Dr. Ben's trip.
Okay. Now, I had been fortunate enough to lecture on the same program with Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben and I were featured on the same program in 1998. It was in St. Louis.
In St. Louis.
Yeah. You know who brought us in over there, Brother Tarhaka? It was Pianki. No, you know
Pianki, that's right.
I know Pianki, yeah.
You know Pianki? Well, Pianki.
I know that name.
Yeah, he was the one that arranged and set up that lecture that Dr. Ben and I was on the same program. So it was a quite experience, yeah. So that's when I first met Dr. Ben. I had heard of Dr. Ben for years, but I never met him until we were on the same lecture program together. Well, anyway,
with Dr. Williams.
Yeah.
Dr. Williams, could you give us some details about your experience in Egypt?
Well, I had a misfortunate thing to happen to me while in Egypt. I made the mistake of eating their ice cream for dinner, and that's a no-no. You drink no water.
Right.
Egypt, eat no dairy products or anything like that. I made that mistake by holding a conversation with the person next to me at the dinner table, and I accidentally picked up this ice cream and began to eat it, and I had diarrhea. So that took me out of the ball game and took me out. The next day we were supposed to go to the Cairo Museum. I couldn't go because I was in the hospital. The doctor gave me a shot. So I had a bad experience there. So I had only little memories of the things that I did and did go to see and was able to participate in. Like I went to the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
I rode the camels and so forth and so on. I did have that experience. So anyway, that's the misfortune that I had while in Egypt. And so my experience was cut short by me making that mistake of eating that ice cream.
Yeah, you can't eat anything. We had some people that got sick on our trip too, and they would get, had eaten something or drank some water. So you had to be really careful not to eat anything on the street, and like you say, not certain foods. I didn't get sick, but I didn't. I was careful. And then to be on the desert. Oh, I tell you, it was really a contrast. You're looking at the desert. To the one side, you're standing up and you're looking across, nothing, not a blade of grass, desert. And then you look on the other side, and it's lush at the Nile. It's green and lush and palm trees. It's just amazing contrast that you can see, at the same time. Yeah.
They had a bunch of zebras along that Nile. You could see a bunch.
Say that again, Em?
You saw a lot of zebras out on the side of the Nile. Did you see all them zebras, sir? Lots of
and oxen. I saw oxen. People were pulling, had oxen when they were farming. They would pull the plow with an ox. And we stopped on the side of the road sometimes and got I don't know. They had you could buy bottle things like sodas or something. Some people does that, but people, a lot of times when we travel to places like that, unfortunately, I had a friend who's a nurse, and she was always telling me, take some food with you, take non-perishables, eat a little bit of those, and because your body has to adjust different bacteria,
Right.
different places. So we did a lot of that.
But I don't remember anybody getting sick on our tour. I don't remember anybody getting sick.
Well, I know one person got sick on ours in the desert. We were on the bus, and she said, "Oh my God, I got to go to the bathroom," and we had to stop. We were in the desert. There was not a blade of grass, not a tree to hide behind. So.
Oh boy!
So we just kind of formed a little human wall, and she was behind the wall. Hey, you gotta go.
Right. Well, let me ask you something. What about the temperature? You know, the weather.
Hot. It was very hot. We were there in June, so it was hot. But the evenings were cool. That's why we would go out in the mornings to the pyramids and to the tombs and, the temples. We would go we had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because they said we want to get out there, and get back before noon because it was very hot.
But, once you, like I said before, once you got in the tombs, it wasn't that bad because you're going from the tombs to the bus, and the bus was air conditioned. So you didn't really realize how hot it was. So I used to say on the bus, I said, everybody think cool now. Think cool. Don't think hot.
And, of course, the hotels had air conditioning.
Y'all went into, y'all seen the Great Pyramid of Giza, and y'all went in the Great Pyramid? Okay. Well, what was it like being in there? What you think about that? What was it like?
Well, like I said, it's hard to explain sometimes because you read about this stuff and now you're here and you're in the midst of it. It's overwhelming.
Almost,
like you're not there, but you're there.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost surreal. And when you climb down inside, which we did a lot, just climbing all down in there, and then we would go all the way in as far as you could, deep inside the different layers of it. The holies of holies was way down in there. You could even go down and see. Of course, it's empty, and there's nothing. People have taken stuff out of it, but you could see where things were, and it was almost surreal. Am I really here? kind of feeling. And then the statues were huge. And I was fascinated because the people we were with, they could read the writings on the walls, and that was fascinating. These brothers could read. James Smalls was with a whole bunch of people, all these people, and they could read the meta nature. They would tell us what it was saying, and like on the wall, look right here. And I go, wow, this is fabulous.
Well, now you have palm trees there. Did the palm trees have dates on them? Were there dates on the palm trees?
I don't know myself.
Well, I think so because I don't remember. I remember seeing the palm trees, but I think they must have been date palms because we did have dates there. We had some dates, I remember. So I'm thinking they were palm trees. I don't know if they were, I've seen coconut palms. I didn't see any coconuts on them. I think they were date palms, probably, Well,
what kind of fruit did they have? What kind of fruit they had out there? Because, see, over here we got watermelon, we got peaches, we got oranges, we got plums, we got pears. What did they have there?
They had watermelon. They had all kinds of melon. I remember melon. I'm trying to think of what else is there. I don't remember the apples or pears. It might be, in a cool, in a desert climate, you might not get that. I do remember the colors. Like on the Nubian people were very colorful because they liked living close to the Nile. They were agricultural people. They were farmers. And the Egyptian government was building public housing. And it was more towards the desert. And they were like 3 or 4 stories. They were brick, and we were thinking as we were passing by as Americans, like you could smell the paint. We go, they're going to get lead poisoning because this paint is something too strong. But the people, the Nubian people would not live in them. And so the government was upset about it because they had, I guess they contract with foreign governments to build these things, the French, the Chinese, other countries to help build these things. But the people didn't want to live in them, and they were saying they didn't take into consideration how the people live, that these people want to be close to the land. They want to be on the ground. They're not going to be living up over one another in an apartment. So a lot of them were empty,
So they were not buying all the what was supposed to be a step up toward technology. Right. They were still living close to what they knew was conducive to their culture.
Right. Right. And
okay. Well, anytime you get a situation like that, the government is going to, they don't want you to, they've even come out here in the United States and tried to say, and they have actually stopped people from collecting rainwater to water their plants and do what they have to do to separate you away from the land and to force you under a system that is supposed to be appealing and supposed to be better for you, but it is stripping you away from life in your own culture. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. Mhm.
So the children, how did the children act?
The children that we saw were mostly with families. It was summertime, so I don't know if they were in school or not. We had a driver who used to come. He'd come to the hotel in Aswan, and he would, asked us could he drive us again the next day, and we said yes because he was a Nubian brother, so we thought, okay, we'll go with him, So he came a few times, and he had his son with him. And what we were told was that so he would every time we come out, he said, what time you guys going to go tomorrow, or will you want to go see, go for a walk or go for a ride? He had a horse and a carriage kind of thing. It wasn't a car. So he'd be waiting for us in that carriage. We say 5 o'clock, and he'd be there, and he and his son. And then one day, we had about 4 or 5 rides with him because we'd ride over to this center where the conference was held. And the conference was all day, every day. Everybody came from everywhere to this conference. And so sometimes we'd leave and walk back to the hotel or go, on the street, and they had selling a lot of amber and stuff like that. And so this man who was our driver asked us, did we want to go by his house and see his house? And first we thought, and then another person told us, they said, well, if they're not going to invite you to the house. They said the African people, Egyptian people, and probably African people, so they'll be nice, they'll be cordial, they'll be polite, but they're not going to invite you to the house unless they like you or something. They're special.
Right.
So the guy had invited us to his. He wanted us to see his house. So he took us. So we went one evening, and he had it was in the town of Aswan. It wasn't in the village, in the rural part where we had been for the wedding. It was in the town, but it was a little small house, and it was all open because he lived more toward the desert part. And a lot of the beds were outside, and they were outside. Yeah. And the women were very nice when we got there. I guess it was his mother, and his wife, and they were offered us tea in a tall glass that was half the glass was sugar.
Oh boy! It was hot. Okay, wait a minute now. What kind of sugar?
White sugar. They like sugar. Oh my God! So it was so super sweet, and it was hot, and it was also, the tea was hot, but we took the tea because we were polite, and so we would take a little bit of tea, and then when nobody's looking, we kind of pour a little on the ground because it was too sweet.
Y'all didn't do the brother like that now. Wait a minute.
But he wanted to show us, what he really wanted to show us was he had electricity. So when he walked into the house, the ladies were sitting there and they had the tea ready, and some of the he had some children, maybe 4 of them. Some of them slept outside, some slept inside. It was a little small house, and he turned the light on. And he turned the light on, and he smiled. He wanted to see he had this electric light in there,
Okay.
So that was interesting.
Now,
all right, now.
It's
Now,
my
here comes the most fantastic questions of all. Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
It's my understanding that it never rains over in Egypt. They have no rain, period. It doesn't rain over there. They depend on the inundation of silk coming from the Abyssinian mountains in Ethiopia, which brings that melt snow and mud that empties out into the largest lake in Ethiopia called Lake Tana. And from Lake Tana, that silk and mud flows into the White Nile that flows through the Sudan. And the water that comes out of Ethiopia is called the Blue Nile. So they merge at that point. So it never rains over in Egypt. So, and I just want to bring that out to the listeners' attention. And just by Emma and Pearl describing their experience over Egypt is giving me chills down my body, because you're talking about our ancestors, our African ancestors, who had the world's oldest and first and oldest civilization that has ever existed among humanity. And that is something to understand and realize. And when another thing I want to say, when the Greeks came into Egypt in 332 BCE, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, had established their civilization for 9,668 years before the Greeks ever came into Egypt. And Dr. John Henry Clark would always say, when the Greeks came into Egypt, civilization was over with. So, so for 9,668 years, our ancestors had established and enjoyed civilization and brought forth civilization for all of humanity. They were the first and oldest literate people on planet Earth. Why? Because they created an alphabet to make themselves literate. And when a person goes to school, no matter who they are, where they live on planet Earth, the first thing you learn in school is your alphabet. And once learning that alphabet enables an individual to read, write, and spell, and makes him literate or her literate in so doing so. And by them being the creators of mathematics, all forms of mathematics, they were able to use their mathematics in creation that they created in their culture to build the Great Pyramid or to build buildings. Today, as I speak, the world does not know how our ancestors, those Africans, what mathematical formula that they used to build the Great Pyramid. It's a mystery of life. It's a mystery of man. They will never ever know that and find out that formula. So here they built the world's greatest edifice that's ever been built by man. It's known as the Great Pyramid. That Great Pyramid went from the ground up to 490 stories high. On each side of the pyramid, measures 756 feet wide on each side of the pyramid. It's awesome. Okay? They cannot tell you how they got those stones and bricks up that high. They had no hydraulic lifts to do that. So it's a mystery of life. And today, as I speak, on your dollar bill, you walk around with that the picture of the greatest artifact that's ever been built, and greatest monument that's ever been built by man on your dollar bill. You carry it in your wallets, your purse, and your pocketbooks every day. And on the back of that dollar bill is a picture of the Great Pyramid. And that was built by our ancestors. On that same dollar bill that we carry in our pockets and pocketbooks every day is a seal of the United States government, and that's the seal of that eagle of Haru. That's on the dollar bill. So we really have to know who our ancestors are, and we have to know the history of our ancestors. And once we learn that, we can bring back our ancestors' culture. By so doing, that will bring back and tell the world who we are as a people. We have not told the world who we are. We've been telling the world that we are African Americans, that we are black, we are Negroes, but we need to tell the world the truth about ourselves. In order to do that, you have to know something about the truth about our ancestors. And the truth about our ancestors, that they are ancient Egyptians who brought civilization to all of humanity. And that's who we are. We are the descendants of those great people. Now, with the alphabet, they became the world's first musicians, because the alphabet that we use every day, the first 7 letters of the alphabet that we use every day is the first 7 notes of a musical scale. Do, re, mi, so, fa, la, ti, and then do. That came from the first 7 letters of the alphabet that we use today. And the first musicians on earth were females. You see them being depicted on papyrus. They are out there. They're playing banjos. They're playing lutes, playing flutes. They got tamarines and so forth and so on. They were the first musicians. Our ancestors created music. Without music, this world would be dead. And our ancestors put life into the world of humanity, into humanity itself. So I want to bring that out at this moment. So as Emma and Pearl talk about their experience in Egypt, it's giving me chills. I just love my African ancestors so much that it brings tears to my eyes. Thank you both. I certainly appreciate you all coming on and bringing your experience in Egypt that you're bringing at this very moment. So continue, my dear guests.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, now I got another question. Thank you, Dr. Williams. But I have a question for the ladies, and this question here is one that comes from a woman's experience when they go into an area, or they go into an environment where there are other women at. My question to you, Emma and Pearl, what is your opinion about how the women there wear their hair and do their hair and the dresses and stuff compared to what we're experiencing here in the United States? What is your opinion of these women? Do they have perms, dreads, natural hair? What y'all think?
Well, I didn't see a lot of people's hair because they were they're Muslims, and they had their heads covered, and their clothes were long. You know, they wore the long sleeves, the long dresses. But what we found out from some of the women when we were there is that's what they wear in public. Now, underneath that dress that she has on in public, she might have a party dress on. Then when she's home with her husband.
Okay.
But this is what so their modesty is very important. You know, they have a certain modesty. And so one of the things that was a little disappointing, there was one particular woman on our trip. When you don't wear, they didn't wear pants, you don't do any of that. So when you go there, we mostly wore African clothes, you know, long clothes. And it was kind of funny because we had a more West African clothes, and then you would find in Egypt. And so they would ask us what tribe we were from. they thought they knew we were African, but they said, what tribe? We said, we're the Booster tribe, the Black USA, but we came to visit our cousins. So the women had a certain modesty, but there was one woman on our trip who insisted I'm going to wear shorts. Well, that doesn't look good. You know, a woman doesn't do that there. They're more feminine. They're more reserved. They're more modest.
Okay.
And also, so, you know, but most of us didn't do that. We wore, had a lappa, like a wrap skirt, or, something more respectful of the culture. And and then we were at this one place, and this woman had a scarf. You know how they wear the scarf around the head, Muslim ladies. And one came in, and she was admiring something that I had, and a bracelet or something. And she took her scarf off, and she put it around me, around my head. And so, and she was like, "You can keep it." So I gave her the bracelet, and we kind of exchanged like that.
In other words, give me that bracelet.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind doing it because she was so nice about it. We couldn't really talk, but and then people complain of this particular person that wore the shorts and all that, and was complaining about the culture. Why can't I sit up here with the men? And is it true y'all got 2 or 3 wives? Well, that's not your business. So, so we didn't. We kind of like we really not with her. We can't take her nowhere with us no more. Doesn't really know how to respect the culture. So that's one thing. I wanted to say something. When the professor was talking earlier, he was talking about the culture and the philosophy and the belief systems, and the fact that Egypt wasn't called Egypt by the Egyptians. These were the Greeks. So it's Kemet or Tameri. That's what they called themselves. And those lines weren't there. Those division lines weren't there. The Europeans went and carved up Africa. So that area was much larger and encompassed parts. Ethiopia was spread out. So it's very different. Then in terms of the pyramids, there was I was just trying to think of it. Is it Abu Simbel? Is it Abu Simbel that's in it's been a while in Aswan, where they have this temple on the hill, and they had built this temple so that on the coronation day of the Pharaoh, it had a gold crown on it. The sun would come at a certain time on his birthday and would light up that whole hill. Well, many years later, they were moving things because you're right. The Nile would overflow and the soil would be rich, and the people could farm. It happened every year, once a year. So then the scientists got, and they want to make it go twice a year because they want more crops and more of this and more of that. So they started moving, and they rebuilt the dam, and they tried to rebuild the temple, and they rebuilt it. But they couldn't get the math right because they couldn't get that sun to come right at that coronation day like it had done for hundreds of thousands of years when the first one was built. And so what they did was they changed the date because they couldn't get it right and couldn't get it. So it's a lot of I'm just so happy to have been with the people I was with because you can get the real story. If you go with just as a regular tourist, you might get tour guides that'll give you another story,
Right.
Okay.
Let me interject something that Pearl was saying about the land of ancient Egypt being called Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand that the world, the people or the populace of the world, does not know our ancient Egyptian ancestors and their culture. And through their culture came all civilization for all of humanity. The world populace does not know our ancestors at this very moment that I'm speaking to you by the name of Kemet. The world populace know our ancestors as ancient Egyptians. That's number one. Number two, you cannot go to the world map and pick out on the world map of human geography Kemet land. It's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, another thing for an individual to understand. When the Greeks came into Egypt under the leadership of Alexander the Greek in 332 BCE, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians who ran the government of ancient Egypt knew and found out that the Greeks were not leaving. So what they did was, since they were not leaving, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians learned the Greek language in order to communicate with the Greeks. So now the Greeks are asking them, who are you? So speaking Greek, they said, we are Egyptos. We are Egyptians. So it was the Coptic Egyptians who coined that name, Egypt or Egyptian, while speaking Greek. You see? And there's no monument that you can point to on planet Earth where it came from Kemet. You can't do that. It's not there. You see? There's no artifacts or no literature that came from Kemet. So the world, as I speak, the populace of the world know our ancestors as being ancient Egyptians, not Kemet. Now, Kemet, they said, now it is used by most African scholars. Dr. Ben used it, Dr. Clark used it, James Small used it, Karenga used it. All of the scholars use Kemet. I understand that. I've been out here with for going on 46 years. So anyway, the word Kemet is supposed to mean the land of the black or the black land. But yet still, you got the name Africa, which is attached to Leo Africanus, a European.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If you're going to change anything to be the land of the blacks, then change the name Africa to Kemet, which is the land of the blacks. The whole continent is the land of the black land, but not ancient Egypt. Okay, that's what I have to say about that. So I disagree with the brothers and the sisters who uses the term Kemet to identify ancient Egypt with. So
what about Tamari? Have you heard that term?
That comes from Dr. Ben, Tamari. That's
Tamari.
The thing about it, the world doesn't know anything about Tamarians. What is a Tamarian? Where can I find Tamari land? I'm asking you, Pearl.
Well, I don't know, but I do know when Dr. Ben was talking about it, he was talking about the ancient names and what these things meant, and that these carving up of the continent were done by the conquerors. You know, the people who were coming there, taking over it. You know, dividing themselves. The Europeans dividing it up among themselves. And he was saying, for example, the Ashanti Nation, we think of them as being contained in Ghana, but they were spread all other places, coming down from Abyssinia to Ghana to parts of Nigeria, and they were the Ashanti nation, and so they didn't have these boundaries. And so I think he was making the point that these boundaries were superimposed.
Now, you know where Abyssinia is today, what it's called?
Ethiopia, right?
That's right, Ethiopia. See,
yeah.
Dr. Ben, I love Dr. Ben. I respect Dr. Ben. But I had a lot of differences with Dr. Ben, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And me and Dr. Ben would argue our differences a lot of times. But I didn't agree with Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, I still respect him. I'm not talking about Dr. Ben. I'm not knocking Dr. Ben. What he did, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and others, Ivan Van Sertima, et cetera, they set the foundation for a person like Walter Williams to have a foundation to step on and lecture from. Okay? I give them that much credit. I love them, those guys. Okay? But I don't necessarily or didn't necessarily agree with them. Okay? Because I found out that the difference between what they're saying and I'm saying makes a difference. In other words, both of us went to Egypt. And I heard Dr. Ben said this. I'm not Dr. Ben, but Dr. Clark said this. He said, got two men to Egypt. Each man took a different route. They got to Egypt at the same time. It doesn't matter if one took his left foot and entered Egypt, and the other one took his right foot to enter Egypt. They both went to Egypt. So anyway, saying that to say this, I didn't, and I still don't agree with. I love Dr. Clark. I don't agree with everything he put out there. I didn't agree with everything that Dr. Ben put out there. I don't agree with what ASCAC and that group and Carruthers and that group put out there. I don't. In my book, Historical Origin of Christianity, on page 146, I have a appendix chapter in there that says why the Meta-Nature hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. You see, the hieroglyphics, which is known as the Meta-Nature, those pictorial symbols drawn by our ancestors during the time of antiquity, has never, ever been deciphered. You see, and I've set the African scholars for saying that. But if you read my book on Historical Origin of Christianity on page 146, and it explains to you why I'm saying that. You see,
Historical Origins of Christianity.
Yeah, and that's my first book. That's been out for 27 years, and my second book, The Historical Origin of Islam, has been out for 17, going on 18 years, whereby I'm saying, in the historical origin of Christianity, there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ never walked this earth as a human being. In my second book, The Historical Origin of Islam, I'm saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition ever walked this earth as a human being. You got to remember this. No human on earth was born with a religion. You were born free as a human being. You came here out of your mother's womb, attached to an umbilical cord, and the umbilical cord was cut after 9 months of progression of development that you developed inside of your mother's body. The umbilical cord served you and gave you three things: food, air, and water during your 9 months of development inside of her body. Once you came out as a child, that umbilical cord was cut, and what remained with you from that 9 months of development was life. You maintain life in your being that you have at this very moment that I'm talking to you. You continue to have that life that was given to you by your mother and your father. They are the ones that created Pearl. They are the ones that created Emma. They are the ones that created Brother Tarhaka, Brother Walter Williams, and every human on this earth. You have 8 billion humans walking this earth as human beings of all races, creeds, and color. But no human on earth was born with a religion. Man created religions for man to do what? To control your thinking and your action. So therefore, there's never been a Jesus the Christ. No prophet Muhammad, no Abraham, no Isaac, no Jacob, no Moses, no Sarah, no Gideon, no Esau, no David, no Solomon, etc., etc. No biblical character mentioned in the Bible has ever walked this earth as human beings. So you really have to understand it. So if you're a Christian, then you better rethink Christianity. You better, if you're Muslim,
that doesn't sound terribly different though than what Dr. Ben taught. He taught about the need for these certain ethics and things as humans evolved, and they came up with rules and laws and philosophies and various ways that they're going to be in the world. And so I'm agreeing with you that as all these various religions came later during, people had lead ways to govern, and then some became co-opted. And, of course, Jesus didn't call, if there was a Jesus, didn't call himself a Christian. That was way later, Do you believe,
let me ask you this, bro. Do you believe in your thinking and your years on earth, do you think that a character by the name of Jesus Christ walked this earth as a human being?
I don't know, and it could be, could not. I don't see it, I don't believe in Immaculate Conception. I can tell you that.
No, I ask you a question. I ask you one question. Do you believe that a character by the name of Jesus Christ walked this earth as a human being?
I'm saying I don't know if they did or not.
Okay. Now, Dr. Ben.
Let me say it this way. They can't find him historically. Most historians tell you they can't find Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you about my experience with Dr. Ben.
Okay.
My wife and I were invited by our personal friend, Clemson Brown, who lives in Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
He and Renoko Rashidi had a dinner reception for Dr. Ivan Van Sertima and his wife. So they were the special guests. So Dr. Ben was there. He brought Sybil Williams Clark, the widow of Dr. John Henry Clark, with him. And we were sitting in the living room, and I'm sitting across from Dr. Ben and Sybil Williams Clark in the living room of my friend Clemson Brown's house. Renoko Rashidi was sitting on the right side of me, and he and I struck up a conversation. And he asked me something about Christianity, and I was answering him, giving him the question, answering the question that he asked me. And Dr. Ben blurted out, "When did Christianity first started?" I said, "Christianity first started at the close of the Council of Chalcedon out in 451, Dr. Ben." He says, "No, man, no, you're wrong, man." I said, "Okay, Dr. Ben, when did Christianity first start?" He said, "It started with Constantine." I said, "No, that's historically incorrect, Dr. Ben, because during the time of Constantine, there was no religion on planet Earth, and during the time of Constantine, that was the 4th century. Christ was created in the 5th century. In order for you to have a Christ and a Christianity." So I said, "You're historically wrong." "Oh, man, you're crazy, man." I said, "I love you, Dr. Ben. I respect you." I said, "But you're crazy, too." So Dr. Ben and I, we have our difference in St. Louis on the same podium with Dr. Ben. We had our differences over the hieroglyphics being deciphered. You see, so anyway, I love Dr. Ben, respect him, but I don't agree with him on a lot of things.
Do you think? Can I ask you a question? Do you think what were the names? What did the people call themselves and their places before the Greeks called it Egypt?
They were calling themselves Melkite Coptic Egyptians, which distinguished them as being the ones who ran the government of ancient Egypt. They were Coptic Egyptians. They call themselves Egyptians, Egyptos.
But isn't it either is it Greek or Roman, that word?
Greek or Roman that did what?
No, I'm just wondering where the word Egypt came from.
I'm telling you now. It came from the Egyptians themselves. They used, I told you, they learned the Greek language in order to.
I gotcha. I'm talking about if they were there before the Greeks, in the beginning, way before that.
Oh yes, they had a civilization. I told you 9,608 years before the Greeks ever came into Egypt.
Right. And what did they call themselves then?
Huh?
What did they call themselves then?
Coptic Egyptians.
Copts. Mm-hmm.
The word Coptic means a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptians. They call themselves, they are known in history as the ancient Egyptians. Why? Because they were the first and oldest civilized people on earth. Mm-hmm. That makes them ancient. No other people on earth can call themselves or their ancestors ancient, but us as an African people. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, do you identify, what do you call yourself? What land do you identify with the names that you call yourself? What do you call yourself, Pearl?
I call myself, identify with Africa. I call myself African in the diaspora, African American. That's how I identify. So
you call yourself an African American?
Right. Okay. I believe that myself and many of us here and in the Western Hemisphere, South America, the Caribbean islands, Brazil, we're Africans in the diaspora. Our mother country is Africa, but, we're scattered around the world.
Well, you're talking about yourself individually. I'm talking about 50 million of us or more living in this country. Now, you say that you call yourself an African American. There's no land attached to the name African American. There's no land attached to that.
African in the diaspora. I'm an African person.
Are you an ancient Egyptian descendant?
If that's the beginning of the world, I absolutely am. Africa's in Egypt.
There's no such thing as the beginning of the world. Wait now, are you claiming to be a descendant of the ancient Egyptians?
Yes.
Then stop using the word that you are, or the name that you're an African American, because African American only leads you back to an African whose ancestors were enslaved in America. It brings you back to the beginning of slavery. When you go to this Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., called the African American Museum of African American History and Culture, the first exhibit when you walk in there is they telling you about slavery. So when you say I'm an African American,
I want to go before slavery. That's why I say African.
No, African where? What about in Africa?
Well, the problem is I don't know exactly because some people have done their DNA and they say they can trace back.
No, I'm not talking about individuals, Pearl. I'm not talking about an individual. I'm talking about 50 or more millions of Africans living in the United States of America.
Right.
I asked
Africans in America. Okay.
What? I asked you, Pearl. What do you call yourself? How do you identify yourself?
I identify myself African in America. I live in America. That's the only reason I say the American part.
Okay, all right. I got it. In other words, you're not relating yourself to being an African ancient Egyptian. You're not relating to ancient Egypt at all. You're relating to one whose ancestors have been enslaved in America. That's your beginning.
No, I'm not. Maybe I'm confusing about that. I don't think my history started in America.
Where did it start?
I think my history started in Egypt, in Nubia, in the beginning, wherever the beginning of the world was. And that was on the African.
Which way are you going to have it? Now, are you a descendant of the ancient Egyptians, or are you an African American? Which one?
What are you trying to say, Pearl?
Wait, Emma, don't. I asked you a question.
Ancient Egyptian.
You identify with yourself as being an ancient Egyptian?
Sure.
Okay, well, stop telling the world that you identify with some kind of African American. Please don't. And I identify with
I'm talking about the continent. I guess when I'm saying that, I was talking about the continent of Africa.
Listen, hold on. You can't spread ancient Egypt over the whole continent of Africa. Ancient Egypt is one entity in the continent of Africa.
One place. That's right.
Okay.
And most Africans in this country don't really know which part their people came from, right?
True, because it's done on purpose. In the school system, they taught us away from that on purpose. They don't want
I agree.
You to know that. They don't want you to know that, because once you claim and call yourself an African ancient Egyptian, that the ancient Egyptians who brought civilization to all of humanity, the ancient Egyptians who built the greatest monument that's ever been built on planet Earth, called the Great Pyramid, the ancient Egyptian who built the Sphinx. The body of the Sphinx is one city block long, 6 stories high, with an African face carved in stone. Once you tell the world who you are and that your ancestors are the ancient Egyptians, guess what happened to white supremacy? It falls flat on its face. It's over with for white supremacy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to stop. You have to say, Pearl, I am a descendant of the greatest people who's ever walked this earth, who brought civilization to this world of humanity. They are known in history as the ancient Egyptian. I am an African ancient Egyptian descendant. That's who you are. If you want to claim it, now if you want to claim that you're an African American, fine. There's nothing I can do about it. See?
No. I want to go back to the roots.
Okay, all right. Now, this is not an individual thing. Don't single yourself out individually. You put yourself among 50 million of us living in this country today.
Right. All
right?
So how do you talk about us in this country?
Do what now?
How do you talk about those of us that are in this hemisphere?
Oh, I'll talk about us?
As ancient
I've been talking about it all along on this program.
Right.
I've told you that we are descendants of the greatest people that ever walked this earth, known in history as ancient Egyptian. 50 million or more of us living in this country without with the name that you call yourself, there's a history attached to it. And if you whatever name you call yourself, if you cannot attach land to it, then you have no identity by way of land. Okay? By way of a culture. See, the land will give a culture to base history on. Without land identity, you have nothing. You're just out there. Okay? So you, Pearl, are a member of the 50 million Africans that's living in this country. What the founding thieves did to us was they took Africa, they took Egypt, and came over in this hemisphere and brought ancient Egypt and used ancient Egypt, the government and the culture of ancient Egypt, as the foundation to create what's over here in America today.
Oh yeah, everything else.
So today, if you go to Washington D.C. and go through Washington, you'll see artifacts attesting to what I just said. There's a book out by Anthony Browder. He wrote a book called Egypt on the Potomac. In that book, he's showing you all the different monuments and the artifacts and the literature that's around Washington, D.C., that they put over here to establish a government based off of ancient Egypt, okay? And they, on their dollar bill, they took this great monument and put on the back of it the Great Pyramid. On that dollar bill, they took this the eagle, which is a seal of America, based off of Haru in Egypt. So you got to realize and wake up to that. You see? So therefore, don't individualize yourself. You are you're part of that 50 million of us living over here who have a special identity. We're the only Africans in this world that can identify with ancient Egypt. Okay? The rest of the Africans living throughout the world can identify with a country in the continent of Africa. A person in Ghana don't have to claim ancient Egypt, but he can because he's in Africa. But he don't have to claim it because he got a land identity that he can go to the world map and pick out Ghana. Now, Nigerians can do the same thing. They have a culture in Ghana. They have a language in Ghana. They have a culture in Nigeria. They have a language in Nigeria. They have customs and rituals and ceremonies that are attached to you see, but we in this country, we're the only Africans that don't have any land identity with the names that we call ourselves. So this program that you're on right at this very moment, that Tarhaka have provided for me, for you, for Emma, and others to come on and to explain who we are. This program is for you to understand that we are a special people. We have a special identity. We are the only people on earth that can identify with ancient Egypt because the rest of the Africans living in this world don't have to claim ancient Egypt because they got their own identity in their own country in the continent of Africa. So that's what I have to say to that, my sister.
I see. I understand.
Okay, well, hold it, y'all, before we go any further. Dr. Williams, could you tell us how we can get a hold to your books and your title of your books and stuff? Could you give us that information now?
Sure. I have 2 books out. One, The Historical Origin of Christianity. It's been out for 27 years. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. That's on the front cover of that book. Inside of that book, on page 146, I have an appendix chapter called Why the Meta-Nature Hieroglyphics Has Never Been Deciphered. I'll walk you through why the Meta-Nature Hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. The second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. It's been out for 17 years, going on 18 years. The thesis of that book is that there's never been a man that will walk the earth in human form by the name of Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition never walked this earth. Okay? And I will go further in that all religions, no matter what they are man-made. And they all are based off of mythology. So no human on earth was born with a religion. Okay? You were born with an indwelling divine spiritual birthright given to you by your mother and father who created you. Okay? So you have to really understand that God did not create you. God is a man. And God, the man, is your father, your humanly father, your actual father who released his sperm onto your mother's egg. That causes 9 months of human development for you, Pearl, and all humans to come into this world by way of that process. So those are my 2 books. And you can buy my 2 books. You can buy from my brother, my dear brother, Yoel, who has a bookstore right here in Chicago called the Underground Bookstore. And his phone number is 773-7888-7869. 773-768-8869. That's the Underground Bookstore. You can buy my books there. Or you can go to Amazon and order the books through Amazon. Or if you have a bookstore in the town or city that you live in, go there and ask for my books, and you can buy my books there. But those are the places where you can buy my books. And the both books carries a lot of information in both books. But anyway, and if an individual wants to contact me, Walter Williams, you can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. Ancient, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN @msn.com. And if you email me, you want to talk to me by phone, include your phone number in your email, and I'll call you back, and we can converse one-on-one by phone, and we can take it from there. So that's how you get my books. Those are the title of my books, and that's how you can contact me through the email, and that's the answer to your question, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. Now, I'll tell you what may be helpful, because when I get ready to do a broadcast, and I put up, in order for me to do this, set this broadcast up, I have to put up pictorial images, because if you go online and you click on the link on Blog Talk Radio, and you're going to sit there at your computer and listen to what we're talking about, you will see a constant changes of images that I have put there. I put an image up that they dug up in 1918 of a sphinx in Memphis, Tennessee. Then, of course, we got Egyptian mummies and caves and stuff all over the Grand Canyon. I don't think I put that photograph up. I might have did that too. However, pyramids all over the Americas and stuff, it clearly shows you that the Egyptians was in the Americas. But what Dr. Williams gave you the key at the beginning, that the Moors, who is a nickname for the same original people that brought civilization, or brought the light of civilization to the whole world, was in this hemisphere and on this landmass for what it was, Dr. Williams, 126 years? Okay.
27 years.
Now, down here, where I live, it's all over here, and what they constantly do. But see, one thing you know, Susan, once you tell a lie, you have to constantly do maintenance and invest in keeping that lie covered up. And that's what's happening here in the Americas. And in order for them to maintain the labels that they have put on us. See, you Chinese, there's a land called China. If you Japanese, there's a land called Japan. If you're Cuban, there's a land called Cuba. If you're Puerto Rican, there's a land called Puerto Rico. If you're Mexican, there's a land called Mexico. And it goes on and on and on. But when it comes to us, they have to put a lid and labels and all this stuff, and constantly now they all out the street rioting, and ain't none of us out there. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives, African American, and all through the political arena. Well, you know, black folks because these folks are waking up to their identity and their nationality and the fact of who the land belongs to. We done destroyed. We done destroyed artifacts. We done throw them in the ocean. We done miseducated them in the colleges and universities. We got sign up in the Grand Canyon where there are thousands of mummies and caves and artifacts of the Egyptians there. We got sign to say, well, you can't enter. You'll be arrested. It's off limits. You got it in California. You got terracotta. You're all down through South America. You got the names of the cities. We got Cairo, Egypt. But we also have Cairo, Illinois. We got Memphis, Egypt. We will also have Memphis, Tennessee. And the list goes on and on and on and on with them trying to maintain the cover-up of your identity. That's what Dr. Williams is trying to tell you. We got Egypt in North Africa, but Egypt is like a mirror. It's on both sides of the Atlantic. And so you are home, and you are who you are and who you always have been. But there's no such thing as a Negro, colored, black, African American, and no other label that is disconnected from your land. I just wanted to throw that
That's
in.
Correct, Brother Doctor. That's absolutely correct. You hit the nail on the head. And the thing about it is that here you have our people who are direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians going into Egypt, seeing the culture that their ancestors had created and brought forth into this world of humanity. And yet still, by them being over there, they're still not understanding who they are. When a person goes to Egypt, when he comes back, he is supposed to know that he is a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. So a lot of us, they wake up every day, but they're still asleep. You see? And I'm not name calling, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault because they don't know. It's not their fault because they haven't woke up. It's the fault of the system that we live in today and the system that taught us in their school system. This European taught us away from ancient Egypt. And another thing I want to say this. The European hasn't brought anything to the world of humanity. The European hasn't brought anything to civilization among the people of the world, the populace of the world. Now, what he has brought to this world is lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, evilness, hypocrisy, genocide, drugs, destruction, death, war, guns, bombs, bullets, violence, plunder, rape, hate, white supremacy, white superiority, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's all he has brought to this planet that we call Earth. Okay? And we got hung up in it. See? So find your way back to ancient Egypt and claim your greatness, because your greatness, Pearl, is lying in the continent of Africa unclaimed at this very moment, because the descendants of the ancient Egyptians are out here confused as to who they are. They have been taught away from ancient Egypt. So do not individualize yourself. You put yourself with that special group of Africans that was born and raised in this country. The 50 million or more of Africans in this country has been taught away from their ancestors' identity. And it's land unclaimed in the continent of Africa as I speak. I want you to find your way back to ancient Egypt, and you tell the world that you, Pearl Howell, are the descendant of the greatest people that has ever walked this earth in human form, that you are the descendant of the ancient Egyptians. And I told you about Kemet, okay? If you want to use that, I can't stop you, okay? But I wouldn't use that because you're cheating your ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. The world knows our ancestors as ancient Egyptians and ancient Egypt. So we must learn something about that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Williams, I certainly appreciate it. Now, y'all, we're going to have to close down the broadcast now, and I certainly appreciate you all and Dr. Williams and my distinguished panel. And we're going to have to do this here again. This was magnificent. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to close out. I've been your host, Tarhaka and Dr.Walter, and this is what I got to say to all of y'all. This from me to you. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Thank you
May
so
I
much.
hotel to y'all.
Okay.
May I hotel?
May I hotel?